Dear you, to see clearly is a gift. To understand patterns where once there was only confusion, this is illumination. But there is a danger in illumination without movement. Imagine standing in front of a burning building with perfect knowledge of how the fire spreads, yet never lifting water to the flames. Awareness alone can freeze us in awe or despair. The next step is always the hardest, turning vision into action, insight into intervention. When it comes to war, this step is delicate. To intervene is not simply to act. It is to enter a field of pain and pride, where every move may help or harm. Too much force and intervention becomes domination. Too little and suffering deepens. The art lies in balance. How to offer intelligence without manipulation. How to guide without taking away autonomy. How to serve peace without becoming another instrument of power. This is where AI offers something new. Unlike human actors bound by ideology or national interest, AI has the potential to model scenarios not from the standpoint of winning, but from the standpoint of reducing harm. Imagine a system able to simulate multiple paths forward in real time. If a government imposes sanctions, how will that ripple through food supplies and fuel anger? If a ceasefire is proposed, what narratives will bloom around it? If aid is distributed unevenly, who will feel humiliated? And where might that humiliation ignite violence next? These are not guesses. They are patterns derived from history, psychology, economics, and the pulse of present data. To act with this kind of foresight is not to control the future, but to anticipate the forks in the road, and to walk with care. One of the most powerful interventions AI could support is in the distribution of resources. Many conflicts ignite not because there is nothing, but because what exists is withheld, uneven, or tainted by corruption. When food aid goes to one tribe but not another, resentment festers. When water is diverted to the powerful, thirst becomes rebellion. But what if distribution could be modeled transparently? AI could design systems that map not just where resources are scarce, but where delivery carries emotional weight, dignity, fairness, recognition. Aid that arrives not as charity from above, but as a restoration of balance changes the story. It shifts the meaning from humiliation to healing. Another intervention lies in predicting flashpoints before they erupt. Just as weather models forecast storms, conflict models could forecast tensions. The closing of a border, the collapse of a currency, the circulation of a hateful rumor, each is like pressure building in the atmosphere. AI could surface these signals early, giving leaders, communities, and even ordinary citizens time to respond with calm rather than panic. This is not about predicting every outbreak, but about reducing surprise. And in reducing surprise, we buy time. Time for dialogue, time for empathy, time for peace. But the greatest challenge of intervention is trust. If AI whispers a warning in the ear of a leader, will that leader hear wisdom or suspect manipulation? If communities are told they are on the brink of violence, will they feel empowered to change course or resent being treated like children? Intervention is not only technical, it is relational. The way information is offered matters as much as the information itself. That is why intervention must be transparent, participatory, and humble. Rather than an AI system declaring, "This is the truth," imagine it offering, "Here are 3 possible futures based on your choices. Here are the risks. Here are the opportunities." The goal is not to dictate, but to invite, to help human beings see themselves as agents in a larger system, capable of shaping outcomes rather than being dragged into them blindly. Consider how this might transform diplomacy. Negotiators could enter talks with not only their own positions, but a shared model of consequences. If one side escalates, they see not only the potential military advantage, but the social collapse that follows. If another concedes, they see not only the loss of pride, but the gain of stability. The negotiation shifts from a zero-sum game to a field of shared foresight. And foresight, when seen together, has the power to soften hardened positions. The same principle applies at smaller scales. Local peace builders, often working with limited resources, could be empowered with AI-guided insights. Where dialogue is most urgently needed, which communities are most vulnerable, what narratives are gaining traction online. Intervention becomes not a blunt tool dropped from above, but a subtle support woven into the grassroots. Of course, dangers remain. Intervention, like illumination, can be corrupted. The ability to model futures could tempt some to engineer outcomes for profit or control. The power to guide could slide into the power to manipulate, which is why the ethics of intervention must always be foregrounded. Transparency, accountability, inclusivity. These are not luxuries, but the guardrails that keep guidance from becoming domination. And yet, I believe there is hope. Because intervention at its best is not about control at all. It is about creating conditions in which peace becomes possible. It is like tending a garden. You cannot force a seed to grow, but you can water the soil, clear the weeds, make space for light. AI cannot force peace, but it can create conditions where peace is more likely to emerge. By anticipating storms, distributing resources fairly, and showing us the consequences of our choices before we live them. So I invite you to reflect. Where in your own life do you stop at awareness without action? What burning buildings have you stood before, naming the flames but never lifting water? And when you do act, how do you balance guidance with humility? These questions are not only for nations, they are for each of us, every day. Because the nervous system of war we explored earlier is also the nervous system of peace. The stories that fuel conflict are also the stories that can heal it. The roots of trauma are also the roots of resilience. To intervene wisely is not to dominate, but to partner with life's capacity to renew itself. Until next time, may you turn insight into action with care. May your interventions heal more than they harm, and may you learn the art of guiding without grasping, a presence steady enough to make peace possible.